Whenever there's a death investigation in Washington, D.C., and I'm sure it's true in other big cities, that has political ramifications, it's almost always compromised, derailed, or otherwise messed with in an inappropriate way. We have been told by the media for months, or we have been told by the media for months, that Officer Sicknick had been murdered. He was murdered by the rioters on January 6th. But it turns out, in fact, he died of natural causes the day afterwards. It was a stroke. And by natural causes, it doesn't mean anything that happened on January 6th led to his death. Otherwise, that wouldn't be natural causes under the report of the Office of Medical Examiner for DC. Now, of course, Judicial Watch was the only one who sued for information about the Sicknick death. You may recall the medical examiner delayed his determination until April 19th. He died on January 6th, or January 7th, actually. So why the delay? I think it was political. And the fact remains that we only received the death report about Sicknick after Judicial Watch sued in court over it. So we've sued for documents, and we've been getting them. Obviously, a big batch came through the other day, or nearly 2,400 pages of documents, and they're worth going through. You can look at them on our website at judicialwatch.org. I'm going to try to, well, I'll wait a second here before I try that. But we have all the documents on our website, so you can look at them yourselves, including the emails I'm about to discuss with you. And what's interesting is that the emails included emails from the media to the Office of Medical Examiner, which I read to be questioning the medical examiner's conclusions. And I want to show you the emails here. I'm going to share the screen here. Hopefully we can figure out how to get over there. That's my web page. So here's the press release, you see. Judicial Watch obtains additional documents on death investigation of Capitol Hill Police Officer Sicknick. Show media pressured medical examiner on natural causes conclusion. And so you can see the emails yourself here. This is the first email. It's from Sarah Mims, who's a reporter for BuzzFeed. There seems to be a discrepancy, she writes at the bottom, between the report, which says the death was natural and not hastened by an injury, and M.E. Diaz's interview with the Washington Post. And I guess the medical examiner is quoted to the Post. Obviously, the Post is pressuring the medical examiner too, because he actually said something at odds with his actual report. The medical examiner noted Sicknick was among the officers who engaged the Capitol mob and said all that transpired played a role in his condition. Actually, he didn't say that in his official report. This is just a statement made to the Post. We and other media need clarity on this. U.S. Capitol Police said at the time that Sicknick died due to injuries sustained while on duty. Does the medical examiner agree or not? And up there, she writes again, I'm following up here to see if there's any additional clarity on Chief Medical Examiner Diaz's comment to the Washington Post. And not, as I noted, and not hastened by injury. I'm not going to read everything to you because you can see it here. I'm really pressing for clarity. So this doesn't sound like a reporter who is interested in figuring out what went on, or someone concerned that the conclusion is what they wanted it to be. Well, you know how I interpret it. Another news story here from a reporter from Jen Christensen, who is writing for CNN. So Warner Media, CNN. My name is Jen Christensen. I've been asked to write a story about the death of Officer Sicknick, particularly how someone could die of natural causes after a traumatic event. I apologize if you released this already. I'm covering this from a medical perspective and just coming into the story today. Is this something we can get a copy of, or is there someone in the office we can speak to about the report? By the way, I don't think they released to us the full medical examiner report. That's still been withheld. There's a lot of confusion from readers, and we just want to educate them about the matter. So how is it you read these emails? I read these emails, as I say in the press release, as skeptical of the conclusion and showing, in my view, let me turn this off for now. Let me get back to you. My sorry face here. Hold on one second. There we are. Here I am. I read it to mean, or these emails to show, that they had an interest in pushing the narrative that Sicknick was killed by the rioters. And I sense disappointment in these emails. As I say, the emails read as if the left media had an interest in pressing the false narrative that Officer Sicknick was killed by protesters. So, what's lacking in these emails are questions about, why did it take you 4 months to tell us this? Why is it you allowed the American people to be fed false information? Because the documents suggest they knew early on the real causes for the death. But in the meantime, there was that impeachment for which the President Trump was accused of inciting murder. The medical examiner had this information. It's pretty clear they had it early on. Why was there the delay? Let's say it was March. Why was there the delay till April? So where's the skepticism from the media? Who did you tell about the circumstances of his death and when? Who else knew early on about the fact that Sicknick was not murdered? He died of natural causes. It was not a homicide. And of course, they stalled the release of the detail we uncovered. And the only homicide was of Ashley Babbitt. I talked about that last week. So the Office of Medical Examiner is a political player. You can see that in the Washington Post story that the media gets excited about. And you can see it in the questioning. They want to know why it is the Washington. In my view, they're asking, why did you stop playing ball? Why did you stop? Why did you burst the media narrative that he died from natural causes? Is there any way we can get you to backtrack from that? How do you read those emails? This is what I love about what Judicial Watch does. We put out the information, and it's there. The emails are there. They're printed in full. You can look at them and draw your own conclusions. Does that look like a media interested in getting at the truth, or a media ticked that their anti-Trump, anti-conservative narrative suffered a hit because we got the full truth about the circumstances of the tragic death, early death of a police officer? As I said, there's 2,400 documents there, 2,400 pages of documents. So I encourage you to review them all because there may be things I didn't see or my colleagues didn't see. It's pretty clear in the documents that they considered this case to be sensitive. It looks like the FBI and other federal officials were in at the during the autopsy. They were there present for the autopsy, which I guess isn't surprising. They had a draft toxicology report completed on March 2nd, 2021. So presuming that they wanted all of the full information about toxicology and other issues, they knew, for instance, a month earlier there was a toxicology issue here, or they had information that could have helped them draw a conclusion more quickly than they actually did. And I'm sorry, guys. I guess I don't have to apologize to you. But the reality is, for those of you who think the reality is different, that whenever there's a death investigation in Washington, D.C., and I'm sure it's true in other big cities, that has political ramifications, it's almost always compromised, derailed, or otherwise messed with in an inappropriate way. And in this case, I think the timing was inappropriately slow to allow the left to maximize the political benefit they saw from tying the death of Officer Sicknick to actions by President Trump and conservatives and people who questioned how the elections were run in 2020. I mean, I want you to remember that if you question how the elections were won in 2020, they blamed you for the death of Officer Sicknick. . And that provides context to those media questions, doesn't it? So I encourage you to go ahead and look at all these documents. And the other thing interesting about this is that we see who else was asking for documents. And you know who else was asking for documents? The other media were. There were 10 requests for the medical examiner's documents here. And they denied every single one of them, including Judicial Watch. And guess who's the only one that followed up? Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch is the only one who was willing to do the heavy lifting on this death of an officer whose death supposedly was the most important death in American history, if you believe the left media. Part of an incident worse than 9/11. And we're the only ones suing for the information. We're even appealing the rejection of the information, because the appeal is just an administrative appeal. We only sue after that. After that's denied, which it was, if I recall correctly. So now we're in court over. We're the only ones in court over. Can you believe it? I'm happy to do the work, but it just shows you how decrepitly corrupt this city is, that it's just Judicial Watch asking for basic information about something as important as the January 6th Capitol Hill disturbance. Something allegedly as important as the Capitol Hill disturbance. I mean, it just shows you they don't really care about it. They don't care about the truth of what happened. Otherwise, we'd be one of a dozen media organizations in court demanding answers. They're not doing that. They're not doing that at all. We're suing for the 14,000 hours allegedly that they have of the videos. No one else is. We're suing about who knew what and when about January 6th. No one else is. So for all the noise you hear and the caterwauling you hear about it, don't you believe it? It's just political. They don't care about the truth. Judicial Watch cares about the truth, especially when the falsehoods are being used to suppress the civil liberties and target and harass and intimidate tens of millions of American citizens in order for one side of the political spectrum to retain or obtain power. So I'm not intimidated. Judicial Watch isn't intimidated about all of the hyperbole around January 6th. We're going to ask sane, basic questions and demand that our government and Congress comply with the rule of law in being accountable to the American people. And we're in court over it. So it's not just me yapping here on the internet. I'm not getting paid by the White House to promote government propaganda, which is what they're doing for COVID. Don't get me started on that. I'm here because Judicial Watch is the people's watchdog in Washington, D.C. We're supported by voluntary contributions. So I'm here for the American people. Judicial Watch, my colleagues, we're here because we love the country, we love the law, we love the Constitution, we love our freedoms. Not because we're being paid to participate in propaganda programs by the Biden White House, which is literally happening. So frustrating. And we're investigating it, don't worry. So I'm sure we'll have some documents on the use of your tax dollars to promote propaganda to our children about vaccines. I shouldn't distract you or myself with comments like that because it just gets me madder. We're going to do something about it. We're in court at least trying to expose what went on, which is more than anyone else in this town is doing. That's for sure.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.